Hello, this is Adam Lehman, host of Hillel's new podcast, On One Foot, learnings and commentary from today's Hillel. Famously, Hillel the Elder, our namesake, was approached by a man who said, "I will convert to Judaism if you will teach me the entire Torah while standing on one foot." Hillel responded, "Do not do that which is hateful to you, to your fellow. The rest is commentary. Now go and learn." This podcast will elevate learnings from the students, professionals, and partners using Hillel of today as their platform to drive positive change within their Jewish communities, in higher education, and in the broader world. So let's get ready to learn on one foot. Welcome to our third edition of the On One Foot podcast, our Hillel International podcast celebrating what's going on in the Hillel field and how we're trying to make a difference in the lives of Jewish students and campus communities everywhere. This is a special episode for several reasons. This is the Building a Vibrant Jewish Future episode, so unique in that sense. We're going to talk about some incredible new Hillel buildings that are getting built or renovated to transform our work in the field, hence the building. It is also unique because this is our first ever on the On One Foot podcast panel. So I think we'll call it a podel. We're doing a podel and a bissel of podel to make this happen. And that entails having four really esteemed and inspiring Hillel leaders from our field who are going to be able to speak not only to their backgrounds and their Hillels, but to why they're going down the path of building new buildings, creating new space to make our mission come to life in even more vibrant and positive ways. So with that, I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves and just share a little bit about their Hillel before we get to talking about the new buildings that are taking shape. And we will start with Roger Feigelson. Roger, please introduce yourself and your Hillel.
Thank you. I'm the executive director for San Francisco Hillel, and I just celebrated my third anniversary. I was in tech for 30 years when I decided I needed to make a bigger difference than what I was able to do there. And shortly after I joined, October 7th happened. And it was at that moment I realized I had made the right choice and I was in no better place than where I was. And our Hillel in San Francisco serves a lot of different campuses, not only in San Francisco, but we stretch down to the peninsula and Marin. So we have quite a coverage area.
Very cool. And mazel tov on the 3 years. I can't believe how time flies, but we're grateful to have you on board. Our next participant on this game show is Rabbi Ari Israel, who I think is approaching his third year of something. Rabbi Israel, please.
Yes, definitely. I was side by side with Roger in those 3 decades in tech and just could not find myself. So I decided to spend the last 30 years at Hillel. And I'm in my 23rd year in College Park after a career start in the University of Rochester and Rochester area Hillels. And it is an amazing sort of time capsule to be entering my 4th decade here.
Truly. And we'll talk about the role of the building in that, but very cool. And coming up soon, totally unrelated to our topic, the National Hillel Basketball Tournament, where we'll host something like 700,000 Jewish basketball teams or thereabouts. More on that later. Okay, heading up the coast, Donna Schwartz.
Hi, I'm Donna Schwartz. I'm the executive director at the newly named Stuart and Suzanne Grant Hillel at the University of Delaware. And I have just finished my 12th year here at the University of Delaware, which is really exciting. Going into my bat mitzvah year, it is going to be a fantastic year for that. We are always a great Hillel that produces fantastic student leaders with over 2,200 Jewish students on campus. We've got really some great signature programs, including one of the largest incoming Freshman Fest programs in the country. And we are excited by seeing this new building that's about to transform the campus.
Wonderful. And also the most distinctive mascot, I think, of any of the schools represented, right?
Go Blue Hens.
Blue Hens. That's what we're about. All right. Going even further north, Rabbi Ari Weiss.
Great, thank you. My name is Rabbi Ari Weiss. I'm the CEO of also the relatively new named Stephen K. and Winifred A. Grinspoon Hillel Center for Jewish Community at Cornell. I'm entering my 10th year at Grinspoon Hillel. we have about 2,500 Jewish undergraduates, about 500 Jewish graduate students, and we were one of the first Hillels launched in that first wave in the 1920s. We are looking forward to our centennial in just 3 years in 2029. And the entire time we've been without a Hillel building. And we are looking forward to joining our peers in the Ivy League with a state-of-the-art Hillel building, which we broke ground just a couple of days ago. I'm very appreciative, Adam, that you were there to join us and celebrate with us. And we hope to be completed sometime in fall of 2027.
Amazing. And yeah, the groundbreaking was fantastic. They actually had hair dryers available in order to warm the ground, because typically at this time of year, you couldn't dig, but God shone upon us. And we had warm weather and a phenomenal groundbreaking. So, Ari Weiss, let's start with you and with Cornell. Tell me about, just in general, why is the Hillel building important? What role is it playing in meeting our mission? And just a little bit about, in talking about the role of the building, some cool features in terms of how you're hoping to innovate in the use of space.
So great. Thank you for asking that, Adam. It was actually a question I was asked a little over 10 years ago when I was interviewing for this position, which was, well, we don't have a Hillel building. Do you think it's necessary? The board of trustees, I think, very much thought it was necessary. And how do you sort of function without one? And I'm like, maybe like a Hillel building might not be necessary. We have a very large campus up in Ithaca. It's acres and acres. We have something like 9 or 10 different colleges that comprise Cornell. And we thought, and we should be all over campus. We have Shabbat dinners all over campus. We are in the Arts Quad. Something that I started when I joined Hillel a number of years ago is we started to put a sukkah in the middle of the Arts Quad, about 400 square feet, just to say, like, we are here, we belong in, for our students to sort of take pride. And then we put these great banners all over on the outside of the sukkah to actually explain the holiday to anyone who passed by. And, in the spirit of Sukkot, we want people to come in and share our culture, our heritage, and our holidays. But something I learned is people need a center. People need a home. And I know that the students look for a place to gather. And there are times when people want to be with each other. And we have a small office space in Annabelle Taylor Hall from 1952. It hasn't been renovated since 1952, with really no space for students to gather, small amounts of space. And I've seen time and time again the need for Jewish students to gather and feel at home, not just when something might happen in the world, but as a way of finding their friends and their peers, and to feel like Cornell is such a big place. There are 15,000 undergrads. I know that compares to some of the other bigger state schools that might be on this podcast, or I forgot, Adam, what you called it, a panel cast or whatever we're doing here. Podel. Yes. But there's a place where, Hillel's a place where people find their Jewish friends. We do a first year fest, an overnight of about 60 students. And I've been told time and time again that that's where, Jewish students found their friend group for 4 years and lifelong friends. And what we think is that this new Hillel Center, Harkavy Hall, will be a home for Jewish students. It will be a place for them to gather, to celebrate the holidays, to be with other Jewish students, and to form a deep community. And at the same time, I think it's also very important for us that really this will be a great place on campus for all students, not just for Jewish students. I've been working on this project since I was hired in 2017. I've done site visits to at least 20 Hillels, and I've talked to so many Hillel directors, including many people on this podel, as we sort of design this building. So that's just been so helpful. So on our new building, our ground floor, we designed to be just a lobby, a lounge with a kosher cafe anchoring it, named Herbs after Herb Newman. But it's going to be our sort of vision in sort of building this is we want to build one of the nicest spaces on campus. So we've been thinking about the space that we're building is not just designing to higher ed space, but really to hospitality. And Cornell has this great hospitality school, hotel school, but really to build to that level of a place where we have a hearth, we have a fireplace in the middle of that lounge. We'll have amazing couches and so many nooks and crannies for students to come and study while they're enjoying coffee. And we really thought we don't want this to be a place for Hillel programs, but we thought hard on making this a destination for people across campus, whether it's a cafe or huddle spaces on the second floor or classroom spaces where the university could hold spaces in campus. And that was sort of like our vision in designing the space as a place where people could congregate, people could feel at home, people could feel like this is a really nice place to be, and a place where people could feel like they belong. Because that's really what, for us, Hillel is about and what this building is about.
The building, as you're describing it, for sure is going to achieve those results and really underscores the way you described it. The critical role that Hillel plays as the Jewish home away from home, having it be that homey space that is a hangout space. It could be a study space. We have programming every day at most Hillels, and yet it's as much about just opportunities for Jewish students to come together, including, as you said, with their non-Jewish peers in many cases, in a welcoming, safe, and often inspiring environment. So, and big shout out, as I was just up at Cornell, to the Grinspoons, to Harriet Harkavy, all the philanthropists who have made that project possible. Now, if we reverse and keep going south, we'll head to Delaware. And Donna, same set of questions in terms of the whys around the building and how you're designing it to really advance our goals in meeting student needs.
So in the early 90s, the board of directors realized, much of the same conversation that Ari and his board were having, that we needed a space. Our Hillel had been part of the campus since the 1940s, but didn't have an actual home. We had sort of rotated different spaces around campus, and we finally were able to build a small house, a 5,000 square foot house, which met the needs of the population in 1990. And it was basically one big room, one lounge, and two offices. And it was great. It was a homey space. It was a space that allowed students to gather, for us to have Shabbat dinner, to have students be able to come in and study and meet with other friends. But it was definitely a smaller space. It lacked outdoor space. It lacked all sorts of things. But in the 90s, it worked for us. It was pretty obvious by the early 2000s that the Jewish population at UD had exploded. It really had gone from, I barely knew another Jewish student in my class, to so many students, so many of my friends are coming to UD. UD became a destination school. It wasn't really just about local Jewish students, and it became more of a tri-state destination. The Jewish student population really expanded and began to grow. And we quickly saw that the space was not fitting our needs. And at that point, our board of directors had this visionary idea of talking to our neighbors to say, like, hey, if you're ever thinking about moving, please let us know first. Our next door neighbor was in her 80s at that point. We thought inevitably at some point we would be able to buy that property. God bless her. The woman lived to 103. When she turned 100, though, she realized it was time for us to buy the property, and allowed us to buy the property. That set off a whole conversation that was about 4 years ago about what we should be building. And we worked with the university to buy the property next door to that. So we were able to put together 3 pieces of property. And in the city of Newark, we are really blessed to be in the heart of campus, in the footprint of where everybody walks and passes our building nonstop multiple times a day to get to class, to get to their apartments. We really are in the heart of campus. And so for that, we wanted to make sure that our space was all the things that Ari mentioned. We wanted to make sure that it was flexible, that it had gathering spaces for large events, for small events, for students to meet one-on-one, for students to be able to just come and grab a cup of coffee and hang out between classes. Because that's what our students were doing before. We just didn't have enough space. And so over the past 5 years, when our current population had grown even more after getting, we realized that Shabbat dinner, we were hosting 150 students in our back room, and it was crowded beyond belief. You couldn't move around. When you sat down, you had to just sit down and stay there. There was no moving around. Well, for the past 5 years, we've been hosting Shabbat dinner outside on the 2 properties that we bought, which has been really lovely, except when it snows or when it gets really cold, and we are dependent on weather when we have those large crowds. Our new building, our new main event space, which is named after the Book family, Book Family Hall, will be a feature of our space, which will hold over 250 people, which was fantastic. And what we wanted to make sure that we could host those large events, because we were having to be dependent on the university to host large events, and we were often getting more than 250 people at events. And so that space actually now leads out to our courtyard. And we realized over the past 5 years, when we've had this outdoor space, how important outdoor space is to our students. We have a beautiful courtyard. We have a beautiful second floor terrace that's going to host everything from barbecues or outdoor Shabbat dinners or onegs. We're really excited by that space. But we're also excited by the idea that we have space where it's like, again, like nooks and crannies where you can be sitting with another student and studying one-on-one. You can bring your group projects to Hillel and reserve a space and have your group meet at Hillel and have that space as, reserved for you. Or if you need to take a telehealth appointment, or if you need to take an interview for an internship, we have telephone booths where you can reserve that. So those spaces are really what we're looking forward to. It is a new Crystal Center for Jewish Life. It was born over 35 years ago. This is a new iteration that's going to be a centerpiece when you come onto campus, and we're really excited about it. Construction just started about a month ago, and we are expecting that it should be done in the spring of 2027.
Very exciting. And, having spent time in the existing space, which is lovely, but absolutely insufficient for the size of Jewish student population, it's really going to be a welcome addition to the University of Delaware campus. And here too, just special shout out to the Grants, to the Book family, to the Crystals, all the philanthropists who have, with their heart and investment, made this project possible. A couple other quick comments here too. You alluded to the fact that there's been so much growth in the Jewish student population at University of Delaware. This is something we see across our movement, this shifting demographic picture where, by definition, as you double and triple the size of Jewish student population, and with Hillel as the largest Jewish student presence and convening spot on campus, we of course need to build to meet those realities. And it's a good reality in many of those examples. And finally, even beyond just the growth in Jewish student population, every one of the Hills represented here has grown their total student engagement levels, both on real terms and in percentage terms. So same thing. I mean, what a beautiful thing to have a Hillel overflowing and elbow to elbow. And even better, if you can have really full and vibrant community happening inside a Hillel, but where people can literally, breathe out and breathe in. So that's the goal. All right, we're going to head our way down to College Park, Maryland, and hear from Rabbi Ari Israel.
First of all, thank you. Thank you both. What an honor and pleasure to be on a podel. Never done a podel before, so it is great. So College Park, Maryland Hillel story is just a little bit different from my colleagues here. About 10 years ago, when we sort of started to expand this, concept of where we were, who we were, we have a very large population of students coming from across the country, a lot of day school camp students, and we embrace them and they fill the space. We didn't have any student leadership space, and we have around 30 student groups under our umbrella. We didn't have any huddle rooms, any private space. Shabbat dinners were overcrowded. Our multiple different prayer services on Friday night. The Reform community was in the conference room, which wasn't a dignified traditional space for them. And it became sort of a challenge of growth and also of identity, to sort of enable our community, as my colleague Ari articulated before, about what space gives students. Maryland's a large school with students from living all across the grid of a large state school, and we also want to be centered and enable students to both congregate and, in a post 10/7 world, to feel safe and to feel a place where they can have their own identity, express it openly and evenly and accessibly. So around 10 years, we're working with the university, and we have an amazing relationship with them. we turned to them and they found the space. And one day the VP said to me, Ari, I have a great space. Open up Google Maps. I said, look, I don't need to open Google Maps. Just tell me where it is. I think I know campus really well. He said 7505 Yale Avenue. I said, Bashert, we'll take it. He said, Bashrat? I said, no, Bashert. He said, Ari, what are you talking about? I said, 7505 Yale Avenue, Bashert. He goes, Ari, come on, man. Like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what Bashut is. I said, no, it's Bashert. He goes, Ari, not working. So I said, look, Carlo, you've been at the university for around 20 years. In Maryland began our sort of stature and tenure as a physical structure. We began in the 1930s, but we bought our first home in 1948 at 7505 Yale Avenue. Carlo, we're going home. So through our donors, through our partners, the Rosenblooms who have been there really when we expanded our current property, which we outgrew, we've been there 45 years, and the Rosenblooms are still at the table, right? Having these donors, having these partners, and the Gelmans and the Meyerhoffs now, really, these are amazing allies who really believe and invest in what we're doing. And now we're really going back home and building a structure which is 2 times the size, almost 40,000 square feet. And it's going to enable our students to have the leadership suites, the nooks and crannies of what Donna spoke about, the small huddle rooms, the telephone booths. We have a brick pizza oven that was installed from Italy because food is critical in a brand new cafe. We have a teaching kitchen because, teaching kitchens are where students are spending their time. The hummus making, the birthright reunions, the challah for hunger, all those initiatives, really, we're building that space where students can find those initiatives, dignified prayer space for all of our multiple communities, an a cappella suite where our students can practice. We have 2 blessed a cappella groups under our umbrella, and we're just grateful for that partnership. And finally, in terms of our community, the larger space is going to enable our students to have both multiple communities. We are a community of communities. That's all what we strive for in our Hillel. And we're going to embrace our current population. And sometimes we see 500-600 on a Friday night. We're how to build a space for that with the intimacy of the 1s and the 2s in small places. But we're also going right back to the belly of the social Greek life on campus, downtown College Park, 50 feet from AFI, a few hundred feet from the Phi Sig sorority, right near where the Sammy and the ZBT guy and the API and TEP. That's really where our sweet spot is. And we're really grateful that our students are embracing it. And the SDT women are around the corner, and it's just an opportunity to create larger community, but also with an intimate setting.
Wonderful. And I also want to say, a big kol hakavod and toda rabah gratitude to the Gelmans, to the Rosenblooms, to the Meyerhoffs. And with all of these projects, you too can be a new supporter and contributor. In all these cases, we've had incredible support. And to be honest, these are major projects where we will benefit from further philanthropy to ensure the sustainability of these projects. I also want to lift up a few things that Ari Israel pointed out. Number one, the way in which this new Hillel building in College Park will be so visible and central. And again, this is true in all of these examples we're talking about. It really is important if we want universities in the context of this current period to convey the fact that Jewish students are welcome and fully included on campus. Having these visible signals of that reality through Hillel is a really important and I think inspiring piece of what we're accomplishing with this whole new wave of building. And in addition, Ari offhandedly pointed out the reality of Hillel, which is on the one hand, minyanim prayer services for multiple different groups, multiple different styles. That's old school. And the new school, the pizza oven, the cricket court. I know you're going to get that built. The space for a cappella, the other incredible food accommodations. There are so many ways that Jewish students are able to build, explore, deepen their identities, and just connect with other Jewish students. And so, again, a really powerful part of what we're doing. All right, we're moving off the north-south axis, and we're going way west back to Roger, who may have fallen asleep at this point. I know it's been just a minute since you had a chance to chime in, but please, Roger, tell us what's going on in terms of this renovation in San Francisco.
Sure. And, why is this building so important, especially for us? Because we serve 10 plus campuses, all disparate, unrelated organizations. And it's really important to have this universal space that belongs to all the students, regardless of the university they're coming from, because if we're on a particular campus, they're always going to feel like they're visiting or that they're just guests, and we want them to have a sense of belonging. So having an independent building is really important, and we're kind of experiencing it now because we're out of our current building and at San Francisco State, where they very graciously gave us some space to operate while we're constructing. And it's clear that now it feels like we're at the San Francisco State Hillel, and that's not the image we want to project. So it really kind of reinforces how important that is. And our current building, it's an old 3-bedroom house in a little neighborhood across from San Francisco State, and it was designed for a family. So we've shoehorned a Hillel into this building, and it really just doesn't meet the needs of the students. In terms of cool features that this new building will have, one is it's going to be ADA compliant. That's more practical than cool, but really, after October 7th, we had a processing space for our students, and the president of the university wanted to come attend, but she couldn't because she just had foot surgery and she couldn't get up the front steps to the front door. But this new building will have an elevator and ramps, and it's totally accessible. The other really important thing is we're going to have this multi-purpose room that will serve multiple purposes. I guess the name is self-evident, but one of the key things is that given the size of the house, when we have a big Shabbat dinner, we're in the backyard. So Donna's talking about how, oh, great, we can go outside now. Like, we want to get out from outside because it's chilly, it's foggy, it's San Francisco, right? Doing a Shabbat dinner in the evening is not pleasant outdoors. So now we'll have the space to do it inside. Plus, we can run more than one program at a time, because before in this house, there was just one room. There was no places to have private meetings. If a student needed to have a confidential pastoral care meeting or mentorship, it was just really hard to find that. And frankly, we want this to be a symbol of pride. We want the Jewish community of San Francisco to look at Hillel and say, this is important to us. This is why they need to have a nice building. That's kind of the image it projects. And I want to turn that around. So actually start construction in early April. And I just attended a meeting about soil conditions and grading. So we're at the really exciting part right now.
Yeah, no, it is exciting for a lot of reasons. And again, I want to lift up a few things, Roger, that you shared. We'll come back on what it means to really serve a multi-campus Hillel, where we have so many Hillels now that are serving many different campuses, including some that have not traditionally been a home to Jewish students. And so what it means to accommodate that. And finally, we are, as a Hillel movement, the most pluralistic, inclusive campus organization serving Jewish students, period, full stop. And it defines so much of not only how we serve Jewish students, but how we are shaping a Jewish future that understands and creates space for that inclusivity and pluralism. And that includes, as Roger pointed out, the most basic, which is accessibility. So actually, it is important in kol hakavod in terms of making sure every student or community member, or in that case, a wonderful university president, President Mahoney, that they can have full access to Jewish life through Hillel. Okay, this is the On One Foot podcast. So we're going to get into On One Foot mode and have very short answers. Whether in this podel, people are going to literally be on 1 foot, no requirements, but the brevity for sure will be required or enforced. I'm going to start, in this case, with Donna. One of the things I really have loved about my visits to the Hillel at Delaware is that homey feel and quality. It feels like a house. It is a house. How are you going to preserve that feeling of hominess as you move into like a state-of-the-art new Hillel building?
We really took a lot of time to think about that, because that is one of the things that people loved about our space, that when you walked in, you could basically see where all the students were hanging out, and you didn't have to feel intimidated about what was happening in different spaces. And you were greeted right away by someone like, hey, come on in, have some coffee, have a snack. And it was very friendly and all that. So we were really thoughtful about how do we design a large building. Our building is going to be 18,000 square feet. So going from 5,000 to 18,000 square feet is also a large jump for us. And making sure that those spaces still felt like it had the hominess of our current Crystal Center going forward. And so when we thought about what it would look like to walk in and be greeted by students, we ensured that there was space right there that students will be greeted to see them. You walk right into what we're calling the living room. And the living room is these fun couches and a coffee bar and a snack bar and a big TV and lots of spaces to be able to just meet and talk and hang out. And right off of the living room, you have what we're calling Kylie's Corner. And Kylie's Corner is named after a freshman who unfortunately passed away last year. Space is really going to be a nook. It is under the stairs. We see students being able to hang out there and really use that space as just another lounge. So right off of it, there is lots of different ways to be in conversation, whether you want to be studying and you want to go into what we have these like cafe booths where you can be enclosed with 6 of your friends, or you could be there studying by yourself. So there are a lot of spaces that students will be able to interact with small groups, large groups, and really use the space that they want. We're really excited by all those different flexible spaces.
Yeah, so it's homey plus more space. Amazing. And, with the space under the staircase you referenced, I did pick up some Harry Potter vibes. Rabbi Ari Weiss, again, on one foot, you have spent, and your predecessors at Cornell Hillel, decades, by necessity, having to meet Jewish students where they are across campus and across and around Ithaca. And that's served Cornell Hillel well in terms of achieving really high levels of student engagement and community building. How are you going to, now that you have this incredible new home coming together, still preserve that focus on and capacity for meeting Jewish students where they are across campus?
So great question. And, we're going to continue to be able to do that. We have a great team of engagers and rabbis, and we have hundreds of students who are involved in leadership capacities in our student clubs under our umbrella, as well as our interns, as well as our e-board. And we will be continuing to go to all the cafes around campus and to North Campus, which is where all the undergraduates live, and to build community there as well. And I think just what we were lacking was that center, right? Was a place where students want to be where they're at, and we'll be there, but students also just want to be together and to join together. And as I was saying before, the Hillel building will be a center, and we've listened so much to students over the years. We've actually been working on this project so long that every year we've added usually the Hillel e-board president to our building committee. So we constantly are hearing like newer and newer ideas. This will be a building that we'll have a wellness room, and we'll have one of those like full body like massage chairs for students to just relax, and it will be a place where students are able to sort of connect to each other, while at the same time we will still be out on campus. Our staff and our interns and our student leadership will be all over campus to continue to engage students, and also to bring them back into the center, into the new home.
Very cool. And I couldn't help as we're heading towards Pesach, towards Passover, think in this like journey for Cornell Hillel of decades of trying to build a building, Eliyahu, Elijah, we're just every year waiting to see if like we can actually bring to the table this Cornell Hillel as a central building. So thank God we've accomplished it. All right. Ari Israel, you and your team over years have built one of the largest Hillels in terms of total student engagement that matches one of the largest Jewish student populations at University of Maryland College Park. How do you use this building in order to, go from strength to strength, to actually meaningfully grow? Is that the plan? Is this just about sustaining, or is there an opportunity to really grow the extent of students you're able to serve and engage?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is a balancing act. I think, what Ari spoke about, and Donna and Roger, just amazing insights here. And how do we learn from each other? We're part of a movement, part of a family. And our language at Maryland Hillel, and, higher math might not work in the Ivies or some of my other colleagues around the country, but 1 + 1 = 3 for us. We truly believe that, we are a composite of where we are on campus. It's not just the building, and the building's an epicenter. So you can meet someone for coffee, and staff are going to have, both satellite offices as well as places in the building, to put their cubby, to put their space. We have a fishbowl where students will be interacting with staff because it is a public space. But you're right, it's a tension point. Tension point is, how do you find that one individual? And we actually believe that where we're going to be located, our new building, going back home, away from where we are right now, part of an isolated part of campus, will be a draw for students. Socially, we plan on having happy hour Shabbats on Friday night. Students are in the social atmosphere, bars and other places to eat. We want Hillel to be a destination, and that's one of those opportunities. And we don't want to lose the individual on North Campus also, as we do have our freshmen about a 15-minute walk, and celebrate Shabbat there. So it's a yes and. It's community as well as the individual opportunity to engage those students and grow the pool. But it's not giving up the dream of connecting to all students where they are at, and not forcing them to come to us, but to build upon their own identity and journey.
Love it. And again, just really reflective of, I think, Hillel at our best in terms of both meeting students where they are, including in their individual Jewish journeys, and making sure our experience maps to their passions and their path, but also then engaging them in these larger, vibrant, thick community experiences and spaces. All right, Roger, as I alluded to before, you've got the unique challenge and opportunity, really the only person on this particular podel who's serving so many different campuses. How are you going to use this project in order to really be able to bring together students from across this more broad?
Sure. I mean, it's an incredibly diverse community because we have so many universities and they all have different personalities and profiles and attract different kinds of students. And the students are incredibly diverse. We've got so many different levels of observance, nationality, gender identity, sexual orientation. I mean, there's just so many different that come together, and they love to learn from each other. They like to interact with students from other universities. Even though we program on these campuses too, and the students will come, this is the centralized place. It's also a place where we can celebrate those individual differences. So one of the new features is an interactive student art wall. When you come into the building, there's a staircase that kind of spirals up around a column, which has the elevator in it. And there's niches carved into this wall as it goes up, and students can put photographs in there of themselves. There's little translucent curtains that come down, but it's really an opportunity to have them memorialize who they are and share with each other. So that's just one way. The other thing is we're going to have this big mural of San Francisco, very stylized, that shows where each of the campuses are. So we highlight how dispersed the campuses are and where everybody's coming from.
Very West Coast. Love it because, the visual artistic element will help actually let every student walking in literally see themselves in terms of that mural or in terms of what goes behind the translucent glass. Amazing, folks. Now we're really going to go on one foot style. So no more than a half sentence. We are living through an extraordinary period and at some levels an extraordinary challenging period for young Jews and Jews in general. At the same time, Hillel is such a source of joy and promise for the future. So I would love to hear from each of you something that is going to be an awesome source of positive joy and Jewish pride and community happening on your campus at some point during the rest of this semester. I'll start with Ari Israel. I already gave you a hint for one thing you could use. You don't have to, though. Go for it.
Happy to talk about Maryland's National Hillel Basketball Tournament, which we host every year. We have greeting around 600-700 students in about a month. And we also hope to do a block party at our new building. We are opening up in a few weeks, getting our final occupancy. The building is 98% done, waiting for the water hookup, and we're going to celebrate with an Israel block party.
Can't wait to be there. All right, Roger, what about out in San Francisco?
Two things. One is when that backhoe or whatever it is shows up and starts tearing down the old building. That's about. But our Passover Seder is our biggest event of the year, and it's open to some community members and administration. And just having everybody get together for this big moment is one of our highest points.
Fantastic. Ari Weiss.
So this year, the Seders actually fall out during spring break. So we won't have Passover, but we will have our new tradition, our second matzah ball, a nice social the week before Passover. So we're looking forward to that. And also just the shuk we have every year in the middle of the art squad. Just an example of something we will always be doing in the middle of campus, even when we have Harkavy Hall up and running, a way of bringing Israel to the center of campus.
Yeah, so for all of the many listeners who I'm sure will be passing through Ithaca during the remainder of the spring, you can stop by for the shuk or the matzah ball. Donna.
Two of the things that really mark the spring semester is our week-long Holocaust Education Week that is done completely out on campus, and it is part of a partnership with the university, as well as our full-on Israel Week, which also happens in the middle of campus. And so we've been lucky to be able to do that and really continue to do that through partnerships with the university and bring it to the entire University of Delaware campus.
Love it. So great to hear all of the great events and experiences that are going to unfold for these four Hillels. So much gratitude and thanks and kavod, respect for four incredible Hillel leaders. They are four of hundreds, thank God, of incredible Hillel leaders who are committing themselves to inspiring, supporting, and empowering hundreds of thousands of Jewish students across the Hillel movement. So thanks to all of them for what they are doing on behalf of our Jewish future. This is Adam Lehman and the On One Foot podcast. Because of when we will have this episode drop, I want to wish everyone a Chag Pesach Sameach, a really happy, meaningful Passover holiday, and God willing, one that will usher in greater peace, security, and well-being for Jewish students and Jewish people everywhere and for all people as we look forward. Thank you all.